Springfield. A 26-year-old Springfield man is jailed on $250,000 bond on charges he set his wife on fire during an argument about his heavy drinking. Antonio Lamar Draper is charged with first-degree domestic assault. Draper's wife Hannah Kendrick is in critical condition with burns on 60% of her body after the alleged attack Saturday morning at the couple's home.
I met Antonio in 1994. I had moved to Springfield from Buffalo, Missouri, and he had actually moved to Springfield from Sikeston, Missouri, and we were the same age. We met through a mutual friend. Actually, it was a friend of mine that he liked. Springfield's got multiple middle schools and high schools and elementaries, so he was actually trying to sneak into our middle school to hang out with my friend, and that's how I met him. And we had a lot of mutual friends throughout the years. We just kind of ran in the same circles, and we always got along really well. We both loved to laugh, and it was just pure friendship. Around the age of 17, I actually lived in the same apartment complex as him and his oldest child's mother, and we were neighbors. And yeah, the friendship went on until August of 2000, when we were 19. We were hanging around each other, and the chemistry just, I don't know, for the first time, something just changed, and we were very much into each other, but we also were just saying that we were kind of friends with benefits, because it was really weird that we'd been friends for so long. But I had gotten a house in October, just a few months later, and he ended up moving in with me. And so that was kind of the time when we were I guess official. It was December of 2000, and the beginning of it, and I found out that he had cheated on me. So we broke up, and I went and slept with my ex. And then the first week of January, I found out I was pregnant. So I wasn't intending on being with anyone. I was just going to have my kid on my own. I was very financially stable at that time. I had been working in sales since I was 16, and I was actually very good at it. So I wasn't worried about being in a relationship, but Antonio just kept trying, to make things better, and I let him back in because I wanted to give him another chance. And I was about 7 months pregnant the first time he got violent with me. He elbowed me in the face while I was driving, and we did split up. He cried and begged for me to give him another chance, and I did. It was a really rocky road, because I had found out that he was doing really hard drugs like crack and meth, and my daughter was born in August of 2001, and then there was no violence. There was definitely issues with him just going out and staying out all night, or staying gone for multiple days. And we broke up often and got back together, and things were just kind of crazy. And then it was a few days before my 21st birthday, and we were friends. We had friends that lived in the same apartment complex as us, and his mom actually lived his mom actually lived with my friend right underneath of us. She had moved in there, and he was down there visiting his mom, and my friend came upstairs and told me, I think Tonio and his mom are smoking crack together. And she was extremely mad because she had a child and she was pregnant, and that was not cool. I was ashamed, embarrassed, upset, every emotion you can think of. I was disgusted. I could not believe this. My daughter was everything to me, and I did not want to be with someone who literally just, it was just disgusting to me. And so when he came upstairs, I asked him about it, and it we got into a huge fight, and that was the first time that he literally just was so violent. He threw me down. He busted pictures he took off the wall, a mirror off the wall. He took a mirror off the wall and busted it over my face. He stomped on my chest. He stomped on me. And then he left me. He had pulled the phone cords out of the wall. And he had left me in the room on the floor. I was all cut up from the glass, and I was bloody. And he told me to clean myself up and come in the living room and smoke a blunt with him. And I was so scared. I did exactly what he said. And then after we smoked the blunt, like we didn't talk or anything, he actually left. And after he left, I ran downstairs to my friend's, where his mother was at, and was banging on my friend's door because I didn't have a phone at the time. So this was, 2001. We didn't have oh no, he had ripped the phone cords out of the wall, and I couldn't use our phone. And his mother actually answered the door, and I'm standing there so upset, cut up, bleeding. And she has the audacity to tell me she is sick of us fighting on Friday nights. And I was very disgusted with her. My friend called my mom, who was working the night shift at a local girls' shelter, and my mom immediately came and helped me. I didn't want to go to the cops. I didn't want to go to the hospital. I just wanted to leave. So within 8 hours, my sister in Kansas City came down and got me and my daughter, Caden. And we moved to Kansas City for a few months. And then it was just kind of crazy up there. I really missed being in Springfield, where I had a lot of support and friends. And I missed my mom. Me and my mom were extremely close. She actually lived in the same apartment complex as us. So at this time, I end up moving back to Springfield, and I move in with my mom. And Antonio is still living in our old apartment. So it's the same complex. And it's probably been about 3 or so months, maybe closer to 4 months, since I had been in Springfield. And he had been asking me and begging me to be able to take me out for my 21st birthday that I didn't ever get to celebrate, because I literally had, his footprint was bruised in my chest. That's how, extreme it was. It was very violent. And, thinking about it, I don't even know why after that time I even gave him another chance. But I did let him take me out. And everything was actually going great that night. We were drinking, we were at a pool hall, having great conversation, having a great time. The last thing I remember was somebody coming and picking us up that was a designated driver, and was taking us back home, and everything was more than good. We were happy, we were laughing. I remember passing a fast food restaurant on the way home, and then my very next memory is of being on the ground, and he is above me just stomping me, and it didn't hurt, but I was just so scared, and it was crazy. He just would not stop kicking me, and it was almost I don't know, I just couldn't feel the pain at that moment. But as soon as he stopped kicking me, his best friend they had pulled him off me and had picked me up off the ground and carried me into my mom's apartment and laid me on the couch and left the door open. I assume he knew that the cops were going to end up coming. I don't even know how long this went on, but I remember him laying me on the couch and leaving the door open. That way, if the cops showed up, they could see me, because I don't believe we had a phone at that time at my mom's house. I can't remember if we had a phone or not, but either way, he left the door open, and a cop eventually did come to that door, and I was laying on the couch crying, and I was trying to wipe the blood off my face and gather myself together. I had like a rock stuck in the, like, up at the top in between my eyes, above my nose. And the cop shows up and looks in the door at me, and I'm telling him, my child's father just beat the shit out of me, and he's asking me where the guy in the red shorts just went to. And it was weird because that was the guy that carried me that was his best friend that carried me in and put me on the couch. But they didn't care about helping me. They didn't come back and ask me. They didn't check on me. I don't remember them asking me if I needed any help or anything. I took care of myself, got myself together, and the next day I did go to the hospital. My nose was broke, and from then on we were split up for like over a year. Well, actually, I consider when we broke up in March, I consider that whole time period us being broke up, because I just let him take me out for my 21st birthday. Like, we were not back together. We had not been intimate or anything. So, yeah, we had still been broke up since March of 2001. He would not just do anything for me if I needed him to. If I needed diapers or anything, he would make me go and spend time with him. A lot of love bombing. He would come over daily and just take out my trash because he knew I didn't like taking out the trash. So I filed for child support, and we did a DNA test. I found out my child was not his, and I was not going to be with him. It was a huge relief to me. And then, for whatever reason, I fell under his spell, and we were hanging out, and we got intimate, and I became pregnant, and I had my daughter, and then we went on to have another daughter. At one point I had a miscarriage, and he was very unsupportive, and he had stopped the hard drugs, but the drinking was an everyday thing. And he hadn't gotten violent with me in a really long time. There was actually multiple years. I want to say the next time it was in 2004. We were actually selling marijuana and had like drug activity at our house. We both had full-time jobs, but we hustled a little bit to make extra money, and our house got kicked in by the SWAT team. He was at work at the time. I always worked like first shift, and then he always would work like second shift, so we never had to have a babysitter for the kids. And he was actually on probation at the time. And whenever the SWAT team kicked in, I told them, everything was mine, that I had, I think it was a decent amount of marijuana, and I went to jail. Antonio bonded me out, and when he went to see his probation officer the next time, she told him that he could not be around me because I was looking at some serious charges. And so that was actually the reason we got married. He never proposed to me. We were actually not getting along very well during this time period. We weren't being physical with each other or anything like that, but just like him constantly going out and not coming home, me not knowing where he is for multiple days at a time. Like, he'd get off work Friday, and then I wouldn't see him until maybe Monday when he got off work sometimes. And it wasn't all the time. It was just like maybe like one weekend a month, which is just, too much. But it wasn't like an everyday thing. But I was just very irritated, and I don't know what I was thinking. But yeah, we got married, and fast forward to probably it was 2000. It was in the spring of 2006, and we were having a big barbecue. We were very much known for me cooking large meals and barbecuing, you name it. Like, I was all about hosting and just having a good time, especially with like the kids. Like, we had a big bounce house that was in our backyard for the kids to jump in, like the big ones that you rent. It was actually a friend of ours had bought it on eBay as an investment, and then it just ended up staying in our backyard. And we had a pool back there for the kids, and just like every weekend was like barbecues and hanging out, and just like lots of fun, lots of great memories actually, with some really amazing people. There was one time though in the spring of 2006 that we were having one of our barbecues, and we weren't fighting. Like, I have no idea what even was going on besides just laughter and music. And we were all like, there were several of us playing cards, and I think there was another table playing dominoes. And out of nowhere, Antonio come up to me, and he had a like Crown Royal holiday glass full of Hennessy, and he just smashed it over my head. And like, before I could even get the alcohol out of my eyes to even be able to see anything, his friends had drug him outside and took him out away from me. And I didn't see him for like a day or two. And then, of course, he came back begging me, crying, saying he had no idea why he did what he did. He knows we wasn't arguing. He knows it was his fault. And it was like just crazy to me that there was no reason, just so violent. So to say, talking about all of this now, it makes me feel very stupid, because I feel like I should have, seen it coming. Like, right now, as I say this to you, it's like I have this overwhelming feeling of like stupidity and shame. I have no idea why I gave this man chances. Because I guess when the good was good, it was so good. Like, it was so good. But when it was bad, it was literally torture. I thank God for bringing me through this, because there's no way I'm doing this on my own. There's no way. So in May of 2007, we had went camping, and I know he made me really mad, and I started like cussing at him, and the next thing I know is he's punching me. And his little cousin that was living with us, that was like 15 at the time, actually got in between and wouldn't let Tonio hit me. And I had been drinking, so I waited until it was daylight, and I got the kids and we left. And I left Antonio at the campsite. Actually, when I got home, I had a black eye. And at that time, I was working at an insurance company where I just was really, had really great opportunities, and I was making amazing money. I worked on commission only, and I was doing it. I was actually quality of the year for setting appointments for the insurance agents for 2006. And that's a huge accomplishment in that field where there's hundreds of us, setting appointments, because it was just a very big honor to get that award. And so I really, really loved my job. And the highest up at our branch would come down and talk to me and tell me that he wanted me to get my insurance license And he told me I had an amazing career ahead of me, that I would easily make $250,000 in my first year, and that he was using my calls to get like contracts and deals in other cities for leads, and like that I was just, he was very proud of me, and I was just really excited about my future. So when Antonio had blacked my eye at the camping trip in May of 2007, and I left him there, he eventually found his way to the house, and he just would cry. He just cried, and begged me to just even let him lay on the floor in the same room as me, because he was so sorry for what he did, and he promised me that he would never ever drink again, because he did not ever want to hurt me again. So he promised me that he would never drink, never use anything again. There would never be any more violence in our relationship. And for me, I do know now that like during those time periods, I always like blamed his violence on the substances, because he was never violent with me when he was sober. We might have had arguments for sure, but never any violence. If anything, like I was like the more angry person, like when we were sober. If I want to take responsibility here, I was definitely not perfect. Definitely not perfect. There's so much more in my book that, details and stuff where, I explain everything. But, so I believed him. He had actually, like, went several months with no drinking. We were doing really, really good. In August of 2007, we went and found this really nice house. Ironically, it was really close to the corner of Highway 65 and Sunshine, which is one of a major street here in Springfield, Missouri. It's actually the street that Bass Pro is off of. So, like, we were living on 65 and Sunshine in a really nice home, and I was making $33 an hour. Our 3 kids were, 2 of them were born in August, and 1 was born in November. So our kids at that time were 2, 4, and 6 in 2007. And, after we moved, we were closer to his job. And I didn't understand why he was coming home from work later every night than what he was when we lived way further. But it wasn't like, it was like 11 minutes, off. It was like, 25 minutes off, 15 minutes off. It was just like random, like weird times, like nothing to be like super suspicious of, but just like, just a different pattern, like, around the same time, that your husband or your wife or your significant other comes home, and you're just kind of like used to that. Like, I know they'll always be home by 11:30, and so when it's like 11:45, and then the next night it's like 12:05, and then the next night it's like, and you're like, and then they're not saying anything, and then there's gum in the truck all the time, and I'm wondering, like, when did you start chewing gum? But like his attitude and everything was decent. Like we weren't really fighting a lot, and our kids had actually started going to a church that was right down the street from us, and they would ride the Sunday school bus. But I wanted to go to church, and I thought that was like the next thing that we really needed to do in our life, is get God working in our lives in a major way. Like, I had always known that I was God's child. I went to, church my whole life growing up. That was the funnest thing to do every day of the week in the small town I lived in, was go to whatever church service was going on that day. So, like, I literally was baptized in a Baptist church, a Pentecostal church, and a Church of Amazing Grace. So, yeah, to say that I had God in my life, I did. I was not, going in and participating in church services, but I wanted to, and so I was telling Antonio that we need to go to church Sunday morning. Like, we need to go down there and see what the kids are doing and see who the kids are around even. So I started just, like, asking him little questions about, like, the gum and stuff. And I didn't understand it because he never seemed drunk. I never smelled anything on him. But I would say little things here and there. Because it was nothing that I could prove. And then a week before October 13th, 2007, I was like, we had gotten into an argument about it, and he was like, yeah, I am drinking, and you're a stupid bitch for ever thinking that I would quit. And I was in so much rage at that moment that, like, how fucking dare you? And so I go and get all of our wedding pictures and all of our family pictures that we had made. And we had a cherry sleigh bed, and he was laying in the bed because he had came in from days of drinking. So I got all of the family pictures and wedding pictures and went in there and was like yelling at him from the end of the bed. And I was like breaking the pictures and tearing the pictures out of the frames and telling him, that's what I think about you calling me a stupid bitch. Like, you got me fucked up. I make $33 an hour. I have a future ahead of me that does not involve this bullshit. Like, I'm not doing this fucking shit with you. I'm literally done this time. Like, I'm so fucking done. And so he actually didn't have any reaction. He wasn't, like, angry looking at what I was saying. He wasn't excited. Like, there was no emotion. Just very, almost calm. It was weird. He just kind of let me go off, and he didn't really say nothing. So that was a Saturday. And I think it was Monday that he told me, all you do is go to work and stay home with the kids. He was like, you need some you time. You pick a night and go out, and I'll watch the kids for you. And I was like, okay, I might do that. And so I contacted a girl that actually was married to a guy that he worked with, because I wanted to be, like, respectful about it. I didn't want to go out with, my hoochie friends that was all single or whatever. And so we went out that Friday, was October 12th. When Antonio got home from work around 11:30, him and his best friend had came to the house and showed up with alcohol. So I knew he was going to be drinking. I was planning on drinking. I got ready, and he comes in, and, he made sure that, like, he asked me if I had any money, and I did. It was all fine. Like, I left, me and my friend left at probably, like, midnight to go to the club, and then we went to the after hours club, and was probably back home by around 2:30 in the morning. I remember coming in. I remember him and his best friend were in the living room, and they, like, there was empty bottles on the table, fifth bottles, so I knew they had drank quite a bit. And we weren't, like, there was no argument or anything, but it was almost like just negative energy in the air. My friend was upset because she had some alcohol that was in the fridge, and they had drank it, and so she, like, almost immediately left after dropping me off. And I honestly just didn't even want to deal with him as far as, like, talking to him and, like, trying to, like, resolve anything. But I will say my last memories before I went to bed is when I'm walking to the bedroom, as I'm going to the bedroom, taking my shirt off and my clothes off and climbing into bed. And I remember my last thoughts being, well, it's been 7 years. If, he wakes me up later for sex, okay. Like, I remember thinking that. So that being a very vivid memory, like, tells me that at that moment, like, we were not fighting, and that I was actually even okay with being intimate with him, even though I was obviously wasted. I hadn't drank since the camping trip that we had went on, so it had been a while since I had had anything, and I went to sleep. The next thing I know, I wake up to, like, coldness and the smell and the taste of gas. And I open my eyes, and I'm wiping the gas out my eyes. And it's like, as soon as I can wipe my eyes, I look up, and Antonio is standing at the end of the bed. And he said, "Now you're gonna die, bitch." And me and the bed just went up like a barbecue pit. I had a down comforter on me that was extremely thick, and I grabbed it and threw it off of me, and it landed to the left of me, which was close to our closet that had our clothes in it, and the kids were asleep in the room on the other side of that closet. I remember after I jumped up, putting myself out with my hands, screaming for the fire in the closet, and Antonio was over there putting that fire out. I got myself out, and I ran out of the room. I ran down the hallway into the living room. His best friend was sleeping on our couch. I screamed at him, and I told him that the bedroom was on fire, or that Tony had set me on fire. The bedroom was on fire, and I grabbed bowls out of the kitchen and threw them at his best friend. And I just stood there screaming, and Tonio walked down the hallway towards me. And I looked at him and I said, "You have to take me to the hospital. I won't tell him you did it." And his eyes were just evil. They were dark, dark black and huge. And it was like there was nothing. And he didn't respond or say anything. He just turned around and walked back down the hallway. And in that exact, second, I just realized, he literally just set you on fire. Run! And I run out the front door, and I run to my neighbor's house, and I'm banging on the door, and the lady wakes up, and I'm screaming for help, and she's telling me that her grandbabies are sleeping. I remember her saying that, and she handed me the phone to call with 911. And as I'm on the phone with 911, I don't even remember what I said on the call, but I do remember just praying, like, "Jesus, hear sirens. Jesus, please let me hear sirens. Jesus, please let me hear sirens." Then I see Tonio run out of the house and jump in our truck, and he is leaving. And after he leaves, I see his best friend come out of the house and get in his car and leave. And I'm like, my kids are in the house, and also my niece was in the home. She was 10 at the time, and the girls were 2, almost 4, and 6. And the next thing I know, as I'm praying, finally I hear sirens. My next memory is putting me, I don't even remember them approaching me, but I remember being on the hospital, like the gurney, and as they were sliding me into the ambulance, I told them Antonio Lamar Draper, Blue 99 Suburban. And that was the last thing. And 6.5 weeks later, they started waking me up. I was burned 67%, and they put me in an induced medical coma, to where basically they could do all of the skin grafting and everything, and the surgeries. I can't even tell you how many surgeries they did in that 6.5 weeks. I don't know, but I know that I would wake up to them. I had no idea what was going on, and I would wake up to them just grabbing at me, and looking back, it was them waking me up. Not waking me up. It was them doing my 5 o'clock in the morning bandage changes, where they had to debris and scrub my skin. So when you get burned, the main thing besides, I think, respiratory is the risk of infection. So even though I was alive, I had like a 28% chance of actually living. And that was ongoing because of the risk of infection that could come at any time and would be what I would have passed away from. Or, to be honest, they kept telling me that I was gonna, die if I didn't quit smoking cigarettes. They told me that I was going to die if I didn't eat enough. And I just was emphatically telling them, at that point when I was able to get up and go outside to smoke, to just, mind their business. And, I was pretty angry, and I would say that anger was a huge driving force for me, because being what seemed like attacked nonstop because of the way they were coming at me doing my bandaging, I guess I would wake up sometimes whenever I wasn't maybe supposed to, and then whenever they did finally decide that they were going to let me wake up, number one, I didn't even know. I woke up in my hospital room, and there were pictures all over the walls of children, and there was a big black cat art painting that I found out later that my little nephew had drawn for me during Halloween while I was in a coma, because this, it happened on October 13th, so he, I guess, sent that for a decoration for Halloween, and it was very sweet, but it terrified me. I honestly believed that I was not even in a hospital. I believed I was in a barn in Salem, Missouri, and I could smell cow feces. I was 100% against the fact that they were trying to tell me that I was in St. John's Hospital, because even when I looked outside the window of the hospital, from what I could see, because I couldn't walk, I had to learn how to walk. When they let me come out of the coma, I couldn't even wiggle my toe. And it reminded me of that movie Kill Bill, where she finally gets in the truck and she's trying to wiggle her toe, and she's telling her toe, to move. I related to that 1,000%, because I thought I needed to escape this place. It was insane, the trauma that I went through, which I now know to be spiritual warfare. They said it was morphine, but I would not agree with that. Not in my experience.
It's been 20 plus years, and Antonio Draper is set to be released, while at the same time, Miss Kendricks continued to recover and raises awareness on domestic violence. You can see Miss Kendricks' whole story in detail by purchasing her book on Kindle and other book outlets. And this will conclude tonight's episode. And a special thank you to Miss Hannah Kendricks for reaching out to me and allowing me to tell her story. Until next time.
Thank you for watching Prime Crime Network, your source for urban and suburban and around the world news. Hit the subscribe, like, and the notification bell